welcome to Broken Entertainment. I am having one heck of a week. So, I didn't post anything last week because I got sick, and that's all very exciting. Everyone likes to get a nice cold once in a while. Uh, and then I made a video last night, really. And it was this pretty neat video, about 32 minutes long. I had a lot of fun doing it. And I'm like, okay, now we'll go through and edit. And I'm like, what the hell happened to my sound? And the microphone was like super sensitive all of a sudden. It was picking up like background noise I can't even hear. And I'm like, what is going on? And I tried to edit it and tried to make it work because I really liked the video. Put it up online. After the first couple of views had an average view duration of about 3 seconds, I'm like, okay, no, this has got to come down. So I took it down. If you're curious and you've seen the link out there, that's why. I'll probably redo the video at some point, but it's hard to do a 32-minute video and then go, great, now I have to do it all over again. Especially because I don't write a script. That's not something I can sit down and do. I just get really bored. I won't enjoy reading it. You wouldn't enjoy hearing me read a script, believe me. So I just kind of go off the cuff with stuff that I'm thinking about, talk about articles I'm reading and what have you. And doing that twice in a row for the same thing doesn't... I've done it before, but it's difficult sometimes where you're just like, eh. Especially because that video was more talking about entertainment and the changes that I see coming down the road, and it wasn't really focused on a specific article or anything. So it was like, okay, well, there went that. This video is not that. This video has I'm going to address something with Games Workshop that I have been holding back on. And we're going to start with, there's a video on YouTube that somebody made, and I'm going to go ahead and play it. It's not very long, and it's a parody video. I'll leave their site open so you can see it here.
I'm listening. My people offered you help. Does it not tell you our cause is just?
I will not treat with any man, while an armed host lies before my door.
That armed host will attack this mountain if we do not come to terms.
Your threats do not sway me.
A bargain was struck!
A bargain? What choice do we have but to barter our birthright for blankets and food? To ransom our future in exchange for our freedom? You call that a fair trade? Tell me, why should I honor such terms?
Because you gave us your word. Does that mean nothing?
Okay, so what happened if you're not aware? Games Workshop, we'll go back in time a little bit. Games Workshop created Warhammer Plus streaming, and they're going to do fan videos and stuff on there. Well, not fan videos. They're doing animated videos and stuff on there. Other services too, a lot of which is free, and it's pretty cheap. I think it's like $6 a month or something. It's a cheap deal, and potentially it could be worth it, but there's still almost nothing on it in terms of movies and stuff, which is what people were really signing up for. And you just don't have much. Typical Games Workshop, they rolled out software that wasn't ready, basically. And they went out and they hired a bunch of fan animators from YouTube. And they had those people making content for Warhammer Plus streaming. In return, those people then essentially shut down what they were doing. The guy who made Astartes and is making Astartes 2 for Games Workshop, basically deleted everything on his channel. And he's not the only one that did stuff like that. Another creator actually quit Warhammer Plus streaming and YouTube because people were giving him crap for selling out, and he just couldn't handle it. And there's been other instances as well. And then on top of that, Games Workshop has come out with a new policy saying essentially saying you cannot make fan content. Not allowed. And they have been actively going out and shutting down fan sites all over the internet, closing out YouTube channels, copyright striking everything they can get their hands on, even to the point that the parody channel, if the Emperor had a text-to-speak device, which I thought stopped being funny, it's like SNL, it stopped being funny a long time ago, but they were still making videos, they shut them down. It's a parody. Or maybe they've come back, I don't know, but last I had heard they were shutting down, or at least talking about it. And now you've got other fans who were creators who have now quit creating specifically to just continuously target Games Workshop. And it's really crappy. It's very much like what CBS did with Star Trek, only infinitely worse. It's like an apocalypse of fan content. At least CBS will allow something. And then we have this leaked NDA, which is hinted at in the video. I'm not going to bring it up. It's kind of gone back and forth as to whether or not it's actually legitimate. Last I've heard, it probably is, but it kind of enters rumor territory. That's why I didn't really address it when it came out. But all of it piled together, and this NDA is super restrictive, where basically, if you sign this NDA to get free stuff so that you can talk about it in advance of the release, you're not allowed to criticize it. You're not allowed to criticize the company. You're not allowed to say anything even remotely negative in any light whatsoever, or they'll shut your butt down. And that's pretty far and above, from my understanding, what a normal NDA is. Certainly, the community has reacted very, very negatively against this. People have come out and said, oh, look, Games Workshop stock is dropping. It's down 19%, and it's purely because of this NDA. And that's nonsense. And the reason I say it's nonsense is if you go back and look at Games Workshop stock, here, I'll see if I can bring it up real quick. Okay, it's doing pretty well overall. But the real thing to watch, there people saying that are looking at the 1 month, okay? And right now it's down 13%. But if you look at the year to date and the full 365-day year, you're still looking at an overall drop over the course of a year. So it's an accelerated drop, but it fits within what was already happening. You can't really look at 1 month and say, stock sometimes works like that, but not generally. You can't go, oh, they're responding to the NDA. I think a year drop in stock suggests something else going on. What that is, I don't really know. Warhammer Plus streaming's not that old. This NDA is not that old. Them going after the fans is not that old. So it's kind of hard to pinpoint. I'm sure you could get a financial expert and they might have all kinds of opinions, etc. I do not. Because I am not one. So I'm not going to pretend to be one. But this all brings up the question, is Games Workshop in a lot of trouble? There's a lot of videos you can find it on YouTube, a lot of articles you can find on websites saying Games Workshop is doomed. Doomed with a capital D because 3D printing. Now, I was skeptical of 3D printing until I got one, because I thought, like a lot of people, oh, that's really expensive. That's like, close to $1,000 just for the printer, and then blah, 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 and then it doesn't make very detailed stuff. Well, now there are resin printers, and they're like $300. So I was totally wrong. It's cheap. It's really easy to do. There's a steep learning curve, but it's easy to get one, get into it, figure out how to work it eventually, and you get some incredible models out of it. I'm printing this really cool Space Marine riding a dragon, and it is freaking huge. It's bigger than a Land Raider. Okay, not even counting the wingspan, and so it's like wow. And you know what it's gonna cost me? $35. If this were a 4-year-old model, $250 easy. But it's $35 in resin, give or take. You know, it's probably actually a little cheaper than that. But and I'm like, wow. So I thought, okay, let me go look at. You know, people hit Games Workshop for pricing all the time, and their stuff's very expensive. But this is an expensive hobby, and I've never really cared that much because I'm like, well, it's an expensive hobby. But as I think about it, it hasn't always been all that expensive. I started playing in 3rd edition in high school, if you want to try to figure out my age from there. It was the very beginning of 3rd edition, and I would save up money from, you know, just buying a bagel or something for lunch, not buying a whole lot for lunch. I'd save up money that way, and I bought most of a Tyranid army that way, and not a small one. And it was like $24 for 12 Gene Stealers. Might have been a little bit less than that. And at the time, the squad sizes weren't that big for Gene Stealers. And it wasn't hard to buy. The Hive Tyrant wasn't even $35. You know, it was, gosh, I wish I could remember what the price was off the top of my head. I have an old catalog I could probably dig out, but I don't want to get into all it. But that was pretty cheap, really, if you think about it. Counting for inflation and all that, it's like, wow. I was buying that with spare lunch money now. You know how long it would take me to get with spare lunch money now? One box? You know, it's $60 for a box of 10 Primaris Intercessors. That has more than doubled what a tactical squad of Space Marines used to cost. Just going back to 3rd edition. And a lot of that price has been added on recently. You know, I watched Land Raiders go from $50 basically routinely creep up to $60, and then you're like, okay, well now they're $80. So you've added $30 on. And most of that $30 was added on pretty recently. So I went out and I said, okay, let me compare this stuff. And you can go to Conquest. And Conquest is priced $30 cheaper for a box of 12 dudes. And they're good models. War Machine's priced about the same, but you need a lot fewer models, so it's actually cheaper in the long run. And there's a couple other systems out there varying in price. But what really nails Games Workshop to the cross, so to speak, is that Games Workshop also charges you for all the books and the rules. And it's $60 for the core rulebook. Then you got to buy a $50 main codex. Then you might need a supplement. That's another $30 to $40. And then you need chapter approved if you plan to go anywhere. And that's another 30 some odd dollars or more. You correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't bought one in forever because I just play with my friends. And there's not that much content for me, quite frankly. And then if you want an army builder, you've got to pay for their app, $6 a month, and get their, which is connected to Warhammer Plus streaming. And then the army builder doesn't work. It's not done yet. And then, so you can go to Battlescribe, which is third party, and they're pretty good. But I can go to Conquest and click a couple buttons. I can get every single rule in a PDF file for free, and there's an army builder right there on the website. Print it out as a PDF when you're done. And they're not the only company that does that. A lot of companies are doing free rules. What I think Games Workshop should do is free rules, and then here's like leather-bound, super fancy versions of every book, and you can buy those if you want as a collectible kind of thing. I think that would be fine. But Games Workshop sells themselves as being a model company first, and then they spend, you spend however much money to buy the army, and then another $200 on rule books. There's something wrong there. It just doesn't work. And to point out really how bad the pricing has gotten recently, back in Warhammer Fantasy 8th Edition, before they crapped all over it with Age of Sigmar. Sorry if you like Age of Sigmar, but I'm not in that camp. Right before they did that, it was literally more expensive to make a Vampire Counts army for Warhammer Fantasy than it was to make an entirely Forge World army. If you're not familiar with Forge World, that's the premium version of Games Workshop's premium stuff. And I'm just like, wow, that is not right, because skeleton boxes were 35 or 40 for 10 guys or 12 guys, and you needed, like, because of the way the rules were set up, you needed like 300 of them. It was just insane. And so when people say Games Workshop is doomed, it's easy to look at their pricing and go, holy crap. For those of us that have been in the hobby, we've watched the prices creep up over time, but think about it if you were new. It's like, hey, I want to start 40K, this looks really cool. Great, you'll need about $500 plus another $200 for the rule books. Just to, start. And I really like the setting a lot. And the company I have a lot of goodwill towards the company because of their past. And it's hard to reconcile that with their actions now, where they're trashing fan creators and all this stuff. That's awful. They've got other issues too. I'm not going to go into it. But so then I said, okay, if 3D printing is going to be the doom of Games Workshop, it has to be comparable. It can't just be affordable. It has to be comparable. So there's all kinds of websites out there. This is One Page Rules that I have over here on the left. Right here. Nice big alien burrower. Same size as this guy. What do you think? Let's look at the price on Games Workshop. $80. Big model, but that's a lot of money. You might have 2 or 3 of those in an army. Now let's go over to One Page Rules. Now this is not for a model. This is a file. $15 for the files. And I'd have to put it in the program and have it do the math, but I'm guessing about $2 or $3 in resin, maybe $5 at the most. $20 versus $80. And this is a very good model. I really like this model. Let me get a close-up of it here. And then here's your scale for... Look at this cool guy. It's a good-looking model. Now, the problem with 3D printing is it's very affordable. It looks very, very good when you use resin. But the learning curve is steep, and there's a lot of weirdness. So, like, you gotta change the film at the bottom of the vat, and you have to test it when you do it to make sure it's tight enough using an app on your phone, and then you gotta have a curing station and a washing station, and you gotta print the model, and then you gotta cure the model, and then you gotta clip it out of its supports, and then there's a lot of steps, and printing this model would take forever. I printed a wing for that dragon. Took 7 hours. And that's fine, But there's a lot of people that are gonna go, yeah, I'd rather just walk into the store and buy the model. So, is Games Workshop doomed? Not yet. Right now they're making a lot of money. But they have a problem. And it's the key to that problem is the same problem Hollywood has, the same problem the comic book industry has, the same problem some authors have. They're attacking their fans. You're shutting down fan content. You're shutting down fan websites. You're shutting down conversation. And then you're charging premium prices for your models and premium prices for your books. Look, there's a lot more stuff in a codex these days, or a rule book these days, than there used to be. But they're probably more than 50% more expensive than they used to be. If you're going to charge the kind of pricing and you're going to make your game that kind of expensive to get into, you have to have very good fan interaction. And they don't. They have the opposite of very good fan interaction. They're attacking people. You cannot be successful attacking your fans. And now Games Workshop has other competition, plus places like One Page Rules, which, by the way, is entirely legal. This isn't a falling off the back of a truck kind of thing. This is legitimately a different model. It looks similar, but not the same. It has a different name. It follows all the conventions that have been laid out in all the lawsuits that Games Workshop has done over the years. Does not claim to be related to 40K at all. In fact, One Page Rules has its own rules system and army books. Now, this is a big model, so I want to show you something else. Let's say you wanted to get started on a Tyranid army using their models, or even their rules. But let's just say, look at all this stuff. You got two of these guys, these cool things, this thing, all these stuff here. $89. That's close to 1,000 points. Half an army. You know, you can buy these guys. Bunch of gribbly things. $48. I mean, I think it kind of speaks for itself. Look at this guy. This guy's cool. What's he cost? $15. Games Workshop's got a problem. And right now, they don't know it. Right now, they're riding high. Their money's high. The revenue is high. The income is high. It's more popular than it's ever been. But it's more popular in weird ways. And we saw comics do this same thing, where they started flirting with statues and you know, don't get me wrong, superhero statues have been around for a long time. And with pop vinyls, and with funny t-shirts, and, you know, all this little merchandisey crap. And Games Workshop's now doing the same thing. They're trying to mainstream their product, and in doing so, they've made 40K novels for 12-year-olds that are obviously way toned down. When you go mainstream with a product like that, and you attack your fans, you lose them. And they've been losing fans. Make no mistake. They've been losing fans. Not just because of pricing. They killed Warhammer Fantasy for Age of Sigmar, which at the time was not done. It was not ready to go at all. And it was a joke. And people left. And some of those people came back, but a lot of those people didn't. Games Workshop is too big and has too much momentum to say that they're doomed now. But a continuation of this course, a continuation of these actions, and I will say a continuation of price increases despite the fact that their processes and overhead has gotten cheaper as far as the models go, but they're spending so much money on all this IP selling crap and getting merchandise set up and blah, 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 that, and setting up a streaming service that nobody asked for. You know, Games Workshop, if you want to do a streaming service, how about this? Raging Heroes, along with other companies, have streaming services that they're not streaming services, they're subscription services where you get print files for 3D printers every month. But they stick their head in the sand on this 3D printer thing. Oh, 3D printers are, they're not using 3D printers. They could be. They're not selling 3D print files. They could be. These are all extra revenue streams that they're not using. Instead, they're going after people because they put files online, and they're shutting down their fan websites. It's not a good combination, and it's not the combination that will take all that long to arrest that momentum and then turn it down into a downswing. So a lot of people have overreacted in saying Games Workshop is doomed. But they're not inherently wrong. They're just wrong about the timing. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen right away. They're not going to go, oh no, 3D printers. Ah! It's going to take a little bit of time. But they've done bad practices before, and every time they've done that, it has slowed their momentum, stopped it, and then sent it downward. The last time they switched CEOs happened at a time when they were kind of struggling because they had kept raising prices year after year. Like literally every year there was a price increase on stuff. It was crazy. And then they'd sell these boxes like, oh, look at this great deal. But if you did the math, it was exactly the same as buying them individually. Then they had quality issues with their codexes and army books and their rule books, and it all just kind of went downhill. And eventually they changed it up, and they got some good faith in people because they started to make better quality stuff. They got rid of Finecast, which was a nightmare. They started doing this better stuff, and they started doing army boxes that were actually deals. But now they've gotten arrogant, and they're doing all this stuff trying to protect their IP. I'm like, man, how do you protect your IP and sell it to the highest bidder at the same time? That's a hard thing to focus on. You've got some people now wondering if they're preparing to sell to a Hasbro or a Disney and just strip mine their IP basically and get out of the business altogether. I see where people are coming from on that, but I think I would need to see more evidence first. But this is all very interesting to me, how this company that I have a lot of respect for what they've done in terms of creating this wonderful setting and this world that has meant so much to me over the years. Before 40K, I was really struggling in school. Not grade-wise, but socially. I was having a really hard time meeting people, making friends, and I got into 40K and all that changed. And my stress level and my hatred of school and all of that went way down. Because I had this game that I could share with people in this setting that I could write stories about and make models for, and so it pains me to see this happening. I hope they correct their course, but if they don't, just like everybody else that's done it, just like the comic book industry, just like Hollywood, etc., don't support people that hate you, and people won't. They'll turn away. So, hard time for me in this regard, because I hate to see them doing stuff like this. It's one thing for me for it to be expensive, for Games Workshop to pull usual Games Workshop things, but to be shutting down fan stuff, for me, I'm not gonna, don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna quit playing 40K. I love 40K. It means a lot to me. But, you know, how much more do I plan on spending on models when I could 3D print some pretty awesome stuff from other people? It's a fair question. It's a very fair question. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you liked the video, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. And I will see you next time.